If you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a month, get married. That's funny. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. But if you want happiness for a lifetime, help someone else. And that's a Chinese proverb. And I picked that one for reasons that hopefully will unfold as I chat with my guest today. Um, Before I get started, lucydumascoaching.com is where you can book a 20-minute call, listen to my podcast, check out other things that I'm up to, like coaching and such. And so let's get started. Um, my guest is Maria Arellano. And if you're not from where Spanish is understood, you might think it's Arellano, but it's Arellano, right, Maria?
Yes, that's correct. You said that perfectly.
Yeah, she's a fine art portrait photographer, been in business since 2015. She also is a mentor and a teacher to budding photographers, and she's in Houston, Texas, as they said on Superman Planet Houston. um, and she creates amazing portraits of families and kids. What I love to talk about today, because we really haven't covered it much, is boudoir photography. So she's going to give us some tips and other goodies about that topic. So welcome, 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 Maria.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Me too. Let's see. So my first question, just in a nutshell, I think people love to know how you got started a little bit so that people, say, oh, yes, I should listen to her. So what's your benefit, as I call it, benefites? What's your little quick background?
A quick background. I, like most photographers, started photography because I became a mom and wanted those beautiful portraits of my daughter. And so I initially began my career as a children's fine art photographer. And I've
Mhm.
always had a passion for like fashion and styling. I wanted to be an actress at one point. I wanted to be a performer. So I wanted to incorporate all of those things into my artwork. So I started with doing these stylized group sessions of children where we would have themes and give them a makeover, do their hair, their makeup, style them, and photograph them. And as time went on, while I was doing this, one of the things that I was noticing was that moms were speaking about themselves in very like self-depreciating ways, putting themselves down, saying things like, I hate my body or I'm fat. All of the things that us women say as we experience life. And unfortunately, they were saying these things in front of their daughters. And what do
Oh,
our daughters hear all of the
oh,
time? They hear, oh my God, you look just like your mom. And
yeah.
that, like, truly to me was like breaking my heart. And I felt like here I'm doing this work that's inspiring little girls, building confidence for them, giving them an amazing memory where they feel so good. And then they go home and they're hearing something completely different from the moms. So in 2018, I said, I need to work with women. And then I need to have these one-on-one conversations with them when they're sitting in the makeup chair and when I'm photographing them. I need to talk to them about how important it is for us to model confidence and body positivity, body acceptance for our daughters so that we can actually change the world, one girl at a time, one generation at
Mhm.
a time.
Oh my gosh, Maria, I so know what you're talking about because I look like my mom, even though our facial features are mostly different. Uh, my whole life, I've been told that, and my mother did not know how lovely she was. And when I packed up her home, there must have been 40 diet books in the cupboard. She went on every grapefruit, just you name it. She tried it, and they were mostly starvation, which I think actually hurt her and contributed to her stroke. Um, and if I had a portrait of myself, I have portraits of myself looking pretty dang cute because we're all cute when we're much younger. But something that could have helped me see that just as I am, without liquefy or whatever. We're all beautiful. Humans are beautiful. So I love that you're
Well,
doing that.
yeah, self-image is super important for our mental health and our confidence. And time again, we hear that from the women that come here into our studio. On average, they're over the age of 35, well into their 50s and 60s. And they always tell us, man, I wish I was as fat as I was back when I thought I was fat. Or, I wish that when I was in my 20s, that I had actually cherished myself and realized what I had and that I had taken beautiful portraits. Some of these women, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for them. They've
Right.
never actually photographed themselves, and that's one of their biggest regrets.
Yeah. Yeah. And somewhere deeper than that, I think, is an opportunity for people to um, kind of get past, and this would be my dream for myself because I'm a little bit vain. People that watch
Mhm.
regularly know I'm vain about my bangs being just right. Is getting past the I'm valuable, and if I were more beautiful, I would be more worthy. That at all stages we are beautiful inside, and the outside stuff is like what kind of spice you put in in your tacos or something like that. Does that make sense to you?
It totally makes sense. I mean, I think that as women, society puts a lot of pressure on us, especially when it comes to aging and our bodies changing. But one of the things, like the biggest lie I feel like we were sold through the beauty industry, through entertainment, is that we're supposed to remain the same. We're
Mm.
supposed to remain whatever arbitrary size that fits into the beauty standard. We're supposed to wear our hair a certain way, have our skin a certain way, and dress a certain way, follow these trends. And the reality is that our bodies are not a trend. Our bodies are all valid and they tell a history, they tell a story, and that story is very beautiful and it should be captured. So
Hmm.
that's my mission to express that to women and to show that to them.
I love that. So now you've jumped into why I read the quote about helping others, the Chinese proverb, is because what I feel strongly from you when I looked at your website and you're already confirming it is that this is like a mission for you. That's not like, how can I make the most money, but how can I serve? And oh, when we serve in the right way, we can make very good income. So I love that. And I went to your website and saw that you have um, like I've heard a lot of, 40 women over 40, things like that, but plus size, 40 plus size women over 40. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. How do I get into that? We live far away. But um, I, oh, do you know who
Well,
Alicia?
we'd love to have you. Women fly over here all the time,
Yeah,
so we would love
yeah.
to have you here.
Do you know who Alicia Haskins is? Hi,
No.
Alicia. So she's a Black woman who has a program teaching people, especially non-Black people, how to photograph Black people, especially women, and that trying to make curves look not curved is not necessarily going to be popular. And I learned once I was photographing a pregnant woman who was from Brazil. And I had this beautiful picture of her with window light, and her tushy looked big. And this was before people started adding to it. So, way before
Right.
a nice booty was popular. And so, I did a little liquefy uh, to shrink it just a little to what I considered what women would want to see from my experience. And her first comment was, "That's a beautiful photograph, but my butt looks way too small." And so that was a big lesson for me that different people, different cultures uh, have different appreciations. And uh, probably that, anyway. So I love that you're doing that because I think plus size women, we can use that affirmation the most. Everybody can.
Yeah. One of the things that I would tell, my students, for instance, when I would go and do speaking conferences and stuff like that is, there is a group of women out there that want to be photographed, that want to exist, and that are loving their bodies. We are currently in the most amazing time when it comes to representation because you see it in media, you see artists that are heavier and aren't the
Mhm.
standard, like so for instance,
I love
and
living.
it's
Yeah.
it's nice. And so women feel like it's safer to put themselves out there. There are influencers with millions of followers that are well into the 300, 400 pound range. And there's nothing wrong with the word fat. Like I'm fat. I'm 250 pounds and I accept it. Fat is just a word. And that's actually how it is nowadays. And if you go into social media, like nobody's getting upset about it. It's just a word.
Hmm.
Um, so what we do here is we do respect everyone and we do have like a questionnaire where we talk to them about what are the qualities that they love about themselves? What are the things that they feel most confident about? And then we talked about other things, like what are the things that you're most uncomfortable with? And we have a variety of answers from women who are like, I'm uncomfortable with my tummy, to women who are like, put me in a bikini, take a photo of me completely nude. I don't care. Let it all hang out. I love myself. It has taken me so many years to get to this point that I want to shout it from the rooftops. So we're going to honor that. And speaking about the editing, I've had, sometimes it's hard, especially as a fine art photographer, because we focus so much on the posing and the lighting and the shadows and then the retouching that sometimes you can push it a little too far. So we have kind of like a standard where we go kind of an in between, and then we allow our clients to come back in and say, hey, this is perfect, but I need a little bit more. Or you know what? What I've realized from this process is that I truly love myself. You don't know how many people we get here that see the photos and they're like, those are not edited. Those are not edited.
Hmm.
And I'm like, no, they're not edited. They're
Right.
just beautifully lit.
Hmm. Yeah, I've had like Facebook conversations. Uh, I guess thankfully, whatever that group was, I'm not in it anymore. Uh, it was a group where any retouching was considered an abomination. And like somebody
Oh
would
yeah.
post a picture of somebody bigger and ask, either say she didn't like it or what should I do here? And there were people that were just like, oh, that's people are people. They should love themselves. And I've spent a lot of time learning how to pose people so that they are flattered, not looking like somebody else, but where your eye doesn't go to a certain spot that takes you away from the sparkle in their eyes and their beautiful hair and their like you have gorgeous skin. So whatever I would do if I was photographing you, all that yummy I love skin. I'm not a
Yeah.
fan of tattoos, not because of the pain, but because I think skin is just beautiful.
Beautiful.
And like
Yeah.
I don't have any prejudice against tattoos. I just think, oh my gosh, you hid all the prettiest parts of yourself. Anyway, where was I? I just distracted myself. Um,
You were
so
saying that in the group. Yeah.
oh
It's
yeah,
an abomination. Any
yeah, to
retouching,
do
you
anything.
try
And
so
I was
hard.
like, sorry. Yeah. And I was like, as portrait artists, we don't just have somebody stand in front of us like it's the DMV, take a picture of their whole body and say, well, that's you. Learn to love yourself. Because it's a two-dimensional
Well,
medium.
and also then why not just hand them the phone and tell them to photograph themselves because they can photograph themselves exactly with the light and
Right.
everything that they already have. We
Right.
are portrait artists.
Right.
And you look at Renaissance paintings that feature women with curves and pudgy tummies and, sagging breast. And we think that they're beautiful, but why do we think they're beautiful? Because the lighting was still nice. The poses were still beautiful. The fingers were still extended and dainty. You know what I
I
mean? It
love how
goes
you
above
did that.
and beyond. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I bring dance to my poses all
Yeah,
of the
I
time.
love
It's one
that.
of the but we want to tell stories here. That's what I consider fine art.
Mhm.
And actually looking through because I do compare myself to other people. And for instance, if you do go to my YouTube channel, I have a couple of videos on plus size posing
Mm,
to flatter women. And when I've searched for like plus size posing guides and things like that, there are these two extremes. There's the extreme where do not retouch anything, do not hide anything. This is our body, show everything. That's great. And I love that. And there are women who want that, and I appreciate that. And then there's the other extreme where it's like blur the skin completely out, remove all signs of texture or aging or any reality and hide everything. So let's photograph everyone from above. Let's put them on their back and hide their tummies. And it's like the same 3 to 5 poses everywhere. And I've seen this in posing guides. So no, well, we dance with our
mm,
clients. And we try to tell stories and we try to capture that essence. And, what's more important to us is to find out what's your flexibility and your range of motion like?
mm.
Do your knees hurt? Those things. And if they're uncomfortable with their tummy, we're not going to force them to be like, no, let your stomach hang out, because how is that really going to help them in that process? And our photo shoot is the first step in a long process and in a journey towards self-esteem, towards confidence. This is just
Mm.
the launching pad. Because if you see one image right at a camera that you absolutely love, what's next? You're going to be eager to take more photos. I have so many clients that turned out, a 46-year-old woman that came in, hasn't been photographed, for years and years, always had a dream of being a model, but, she's 4'11" and over 200 pounds. So, how is that ever going to happen, right? And now she's literally traveling and modeling because she did this one photo shoot where she saw herself as beautiful, put
Wow.
herself out there, and now people are like, "I want to photograph you. You're so stunning. You're so gorgeous." And she's 46 years old,
Yeah.
and it's
And,
because of this one little thing.
hmm and that confidence, it comes through the eyes. It comes through those 50 muscles in our face. It comes from, like when you're nervous and your shoulders are up, or when you're feeling good, you're loose. And that's a big part of being attractive. I'm not going to say beautiful because that's a pretty loaded word, but we all have our attractiveness. Um, a, a big aha for me many years ago was when I realized I don't see myself the way others see me because I'm in here. I only see
Exactly.
myself
Mhm.
in a mirror in reverse. And I began to
Mhm.
realize how I move, how I talk, um, gestures, energy, all of that is is part of people's attractiveness. And we all have attractiveness. And I think that confidence is always a big, big, big plus on that. So I love what you're saying about all of that. Uh, what else did I have in my little list here? There you are. Mm-mm-mm. So you talked about how you develop a community, and that's, I think, one of your secrets to uh, a successful business. So tell me what you mean by that.
Um, so I consider myself a girl's girl. I was raised by a single mom with 2 daughters, so it was like the three of us. And those sisterly, feminine relationships are to my core so important with me for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's included even with the team that I hire and the women that work with me. Like they are my family, they are my sisters. I deeply care for them and I want to take care of them. I see us for many years together. This is my family. And this is what I've been looking for my whole entire life
Mm-hmm.
because I've always wanted those friendships that I had with like my mom and my sister. And both of them have moved away so far away from me that I've been alone for many years. And
Mm-hmm.
I've had friendships that maybe didn't give what I wanted to give, and it was like you're pouring yourself into people and they're not giving back. And I'm in a place now in my business and in my personal life, like I'm getting teary-eyed because so special, and they're actually here with me. So of like how far we've come in this journey in the last year. But it started with that I wanted these, I was invested in my clients. And a few years ago, one of the things that I did was I switched over from selling my portrait work to choosing my customers. And the way I would
Ooh,
do that is in
okay.
the conversation.
Okay. I need to mentally make that capital letters in bold. So say that again.
Okay. Um, a couple of years ago, I had
So
a
that
switch in my,
sorry to interrupt. Okay. Just that statement that the selling
I'm
versus
not selling. Yeah, I'm not selling myself. I'm choosing my customers
yes,
and
I love
choosing,
that.
yeah. Um, so I started to change my language. So in my discovery calls, I would always set up Zoom consultations to get to know them and hear their stories and see if it was going to be a good fit for me and if it was somebody that I truly wanted to create a story with, because I'm a storyteller. And that was what I think kind of set me apart from other boudoir photographers. It was that I wanted to tell a story, an authentic story about the person that I was photographing. And then I incorporated with that the things that I grew up with that I loved, like Greek mythology. And surprisingly, I grew up Catholic. So you do see a lot of like symbolism in my
Mhm.
artwork with like the wings and crowns and stuff like that. And Greek mythology at my core, it's like my absolute favorite. So that's how I started Goddess. And it was like, I'm going to do one theme shoot, and it was going to be a goddess theme shoot. And I dressed everyone like goddesses. And then I was like, I'm going to own that. This is mine now, you know? And
Mhm.
so I developed our goddess community, and I started a Facebook group. And it was all about not necessarily body positivity, because sometimes that can be super toxic, because there's times that you don't feel the best about yourself. And I think it's unfair to expect that from women and to say you have to always be happy and you always have to love on yourself, because that's not reality. But it was a place where I wanted to create that support and that sisterhood. And that's what I was looking for. And especially because I would get so invested in my clients' stories and in their journey that after it was time to hand over an album or their photos, and it was like, okay, see ya. Thanks for doing business with
Mhm.
me. I would be like heartbroken. I'd be like, no, stay in my life.
Right.
And so one of the things that I wanted to do was I like a gala, like a prom night. And so I was like, I'm gonna have a prom night and I'm gonna invite all the women I photographed to this prom night. And I'm the kind of person that's like, I have to put skin in the game, because things that scare me, if I don't have skin in the game, I'm going to back out, right?
Hmm.
And I'm a woman of my word. If I say I'm going to do something, I have to do it. So I went, I put a deposit down on a venue, and I was like, I'm renting this place. And
Wow.
so I have to fill it up with women. And that's basically how it started.
So you have this event and the people are invited and there's
It's our it's our goddess gala, and I don't really think you can call it a gala because I there's not a donation or anything, but I do give out awards. So I choose 8 of the women we photographed throughout the year whose
Mhm.
stories move me, and they symbolize different things, different qualities in a goddess. And then we have a whole goddess of the year, and it's a woman who's made, the biggest impact, or with us, with our team, we all get to choose it. So yeah, it's beautiful because it's all this goddess energy, and you see all these women of different shapes, sizes, ethnicities. One thing that I'm so proud of is the fact that we are photographing everyone
I
of
love that.
every ethnicity, every age. You can come into our studio and you will see every size on our wall,
I love it.
because just as much, a lot of times we talk about, plus size women and plus size representation, but there's also women who are real petite, that don't
Hmm.
have curves, that don't have, a big chest. And they also feel underrepresented. And they
Hmm.
also feel like, well, where's my sex appeal? So
Right.
it's beautiful to have here.
Yeah. So is there any, because with the 40 over 40 model that I've heard of, a lot of times there is an event um, where there's wall portraits on the wall and the women are invited with their spouses, families, girlfriends. Um, and
That's our
it
Yeah,
is
that's our
connected
gala,
to
but
that, or is
we
that
don't
a
invite.
different? Sorry.
Well, it's connected to the project and we feature the women there, but we don't invite all of the public. It's free for them just for booking a session. So they're part of it. And it's all of the women we photograph for the year are invited. They all get a ticket. And we do feature their artwork and the 8 women. We tell their stories and they get an award. So yeah.
Got it. So
And
it's
it happens
part,
in December. So
so it's part of your um
yeah.
40 over 40 project um to be
It's
like,
part of
and
my
you,
whole.
sorry.
We don't really, yeah, it's not really exclusive to the project. It's not
Okay.
really exclusive to the project. It's everyone, all the women who have a goddess experience throughout the year. So it's
Okay.
not exclusive to the, though we do feature the women from the project in there during the ceremony because we have a whole ceremony with awards and everything and I make little slideshows of the women that get awards, so we show their photographs, we show a little behind the scenes, and yeah, they come up there and they get like a little award and stuff. So
That's so
yeah,
awesome. So,
yeah,
um,
this year's gonna be hard to
pardon?
choose.
Yeah.
I said this year's gonna be really hard to choose.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's really, it's a giving back. There's, it's not connected to anything specific that's monetary,
No.
but it's connected to building that community and having people feel a part of and celebrating the wins and the journey. So I absolutely love that. Love that. Um, Something else that popped in my mind about that. The feeling that I get from you, because in so I'm a little past this generation, but I have a lot of friends in the goddess woo woo Burning Man generation. You know, like they're young moms now, or uh, maybe early 50s, and there's sort of a goddess thing that doesn't, what I say, it doesn't strike me.
Witches,
Pardon? No, well, it's
like
just
witches.
there's something about it that's more feels like playing dress up, whereas yours feels a little more like in the soul of it, in the acknowledging, like, like those goddess. I just started reading a book it started with the dawn of time in England. It's this 1,000 page novel that goes era to era to era, and I don't know why he put it in there, but somebody carved a a goddess figure. I think maybe his wife died, and so he carved something that he could keep by him, and it reminded him of his wife. And of course, she was curvy and fertile looking, and so that's the feeling that I get from what you're talking about. And I'm not negating the let's be goddesses, dress up and wear, these are scarves I'm waving around. That's fun too. But am I right that this has a little bit of a deeper, soulful, it's not as much the exterior experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's about connecting with like your inner child and kind of working through your trauma, speaking about that,
Mhm.
for sure.
I love
A
that.
lot of what we do is have conversations with women
Mm,
and have these conversations about why do you feel the way that you do about your body? Where does that come from? Going back to, for me, for instance, was I just remember when I was 9 years old and being put on my first diet, and it wasn't a healthy diet. I wasn't taught nutrition or proper care. I was taught about fad diets. I can tell you what they were. It was the military diet, the cabbage soup diet at 9 years old, and then losing like 10 pounds. And then, okay, now you've lost the weight. Let's go back to feeding you what we were eating all along, which I'm
right.
Mexican, so it's tamales, beans, rice, all of
Yeah.
the all of the stuff.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't really learning. But growing up feeling like there was something wrong with me and I was never good enough. And, you know, doing what I do and having these conversations with women, I'm still constantly evolving as a woman myself. And I'm kind of having to regroup, Like I've sat here crying with my studio manager before because I was like, why am I processing this like this? Why am I like I felt for the longest time like I could never make it. I could never be successful. I could never reach my goal. It was always just out of hand's reach. Why? Why? Like, do I not deserve it? And it's because it started when I was a little kid and always being told, like, you're not good enough and you're not going to get the husband. You're not going to get this. You're not going to get
Mm,
that because you're fat,
right.
you know? And
Hmm.
like that trauma stays with you. And I see that
Does.
with these women that I talk to. That's what this goddess experience is about. It's about tackling those things. Like where I'm at now, the woman that I was a year ago is so different. Just on the fact that we're photographing 20 women a week as opposed
Wow.
to me being by myself and
Hmm.
photographing 10 women a month. Just that fact that I'm having conversations with 20 women has changed me and has helped me evolve.
Oh,
Like I'm in a place now where I'm like, my mental health is important. So I'm going to go to the gym to lift weights so I can get strong because I need to release stress in a physical way rather
hmm.
than sitting at my computer all day editing and dealing with customer service, you
Hmm.
know? And like now that's become a non-negotiable. And then I was like, well, my spirituality, I need to start going to church because I've been putting that on the back burner because I've been so focused on my business and building this business that all these other things have lost priority to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know if it makes sense, but what I'm
It,
saying is like I'm growing from working with these women, you
right,
know?
right. I was going to ask you, and you kind of answered it already. How do you think this conversation we're having and these things that you're doing can be uh, insightful for photographers who are listening, partly because I think some of them like me. Thank you very much. I like you too. But it's called the profitable photographer. So I've said a zillion times, and now I'll say a zillion and one, the beautiful thing about being self-employed, especially in such a personal service, is that the parts of us that are up for healing or just improving come into our face and we have the opportunity to shift. And the parts of us that are strong and capable, we have an opportunity for them to blossom. So, what I'm hearing from you is this photography approach that you've um, not morphed into, but this path you took and how something has unfolded for you is doing that very thing, which is growing you, which then also makes you a happier, healthier person, more fun and interesting to be around. And that attracts more clients because the more we're real and we're caring and we're professional and we're grown-ups and all of those things, the more of a magnet we are for everything we're looking for. So I love that this, however it all came about, is something that is making the world a better place as it continues to refine you. Then you pass that on. And the people that you talk to, the people that you've hired, that you're working with, all of that, the goddess group, all of that, it starts with photography. Who would think we can change
Who would think?
the
Yep.
people's lives with our camera? But we can.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I think find your purpose
Hmm.
and lead with your purpose. And our purpose here is, to serve and uplift women, empower them, and help them develop a healthy self-image.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
that's our goal. And thankfully, we get rewarded quite nicely for it,
Hmm.
but it comes back to us. And whether that comes through word of mouth, um, through these loyal super fans, I would call them,
Hmm.
goddesses that name themselves as goddesses and a team that's proud of what they do. Our team is so proud of what we do. And
Love
some of
that.
the beautiful things, like, my makeup artist today ran into my office to tell me that when she showed our goddess her makeup, that she just started crying. And like it just
Mm.
made her so happy
Hmm. Hmm.
because she was just like she just like hadn't seen herself that way,
Yeah,
and
love
that's
that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
And so for me, children are my heart. And I didn't, and it's not the first time I've said this on the podcast, but I didn't know how loved I was and valuable and precious and smart and cute and all the things. And through photographing children, my goal is for them to see themselves and for them to know that. Um, but then I've had those moments like if you're watching on YouTube, there's a portrait of a little boy holding his daddy's legs. And that shoot was very painful for me because the parents did not bring things that you should bring for kids on a photo shoot. No diapers, no snacks, no sweaters, and it was at the beach. And it gave me some insight into my own history and my own, you know, I was heavy into personal growth and so I grew from this experience, and the look in his eye has a lot of different contexts. And I call it security because that evokes that for a lot of people. But for me, I see that little bit of uh, need in his eyes for something that wasn't provided. So I love how what we do can grow us in, well, I already sort of said that, but can pop in some amazing revelations. And so I think for the men that are listening to this, uh, who aren't necessarily going to start a God group or a goddess group or something, there's a lot to unpack about their own process, their own businesses, their own goals, and why and how they can impact people with their work and that their work can impact them. Thoughts on that with what you might say to the dudes out there that are listening?
You know, kings are out there and they want photo shoots too. We just photographed our first king, and it was the
Oh,
most eye-opening experience for us. He went through the same things that women go through, right? Like trying to cancel his photo session because or reschedule it because he wasn't ready and he didn't have the six pack, and then once we photograph him getting messages like, so did the pictures come out? Do you like them? The
mm-hmm.
whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was very eye-opening. So I think that there's definitely men out there that also need something like this, something that's
Right.
also empowering and builds them up. And that's one of the things that I do pride myself here in the studio is that we get a lot of dads and men that love coming here and being photographed with us is because we get to the point and they like their photos.
Got it.
We don't laugh
So,
the guy. We're like, so, and let's have fun. And they
so
want to dress up.
yeah. So my question is about male photographers who are not necessarily going to get into boudoir photography, how this conversation, like what would you say to them on the topics about the so
Well,
how their
I think it
careers.
doesn't. I think it doesn't change. I think in general, we should all find our purpose and the thing
Mhm.
that moves us, whatever that may be, and chase that. And if you're
Right.
acting according to your purpose, your reward will follow. You will
That's
attract the people that are going to fit that. So, I
right.
mean, basics of business is, have your person, your what is the word? Everybody calls it different things,
Yeah.
but like
I call it ideal
your
client.
ideal client, yeah, your ideal client, and have that all written out and then bring them to you, attract them to you. For
Mhm.
for me, it's a lot through social media, through TikTok, through YouTube. That's how I find my people.
Mhm.
And with us here, it's very much telling our stories here, being authentically ourselves. And we do offer a luxury experience, but we're messy. My hair is frizzy,
Mhm.
and I'm authentic. I'm real.
Right.
I'm not perfectly groomed and I'm not wearing all black and I'm not super polished. It's like you come in and you are comfortable and you're with family,
Right.
and that's what they feel safe, they feel secure. People don't want to leave here because we're so much fun.
Mm. I can see that. And people like, do you know Jerry Guiones? Do you know who he is? So
Yep,
he's the
absolutely.
guy in the all black and his beautiful wife in all black. And he is super warm and super friendly, and people don't want to leave him either. But
Oh no, I
that's
met him, love him. They're
yeah,
great.
that's his authenticity too. That
Yes,
we all have
absolutely.
our brand that is really what is it like to be around you? Uh, Back in the old days of the bling era where we permed and had sparkly jewelry and things, people were always surprised that I drove a Toyota truck because they saw me as someone blingy. But I'm also this down home person that grew up in till I was 10 in farm country, Central California. Uh, my best friend lived on a farm, so I got to drive around the cotton fields in what was called a putt-putt. It was a lawnmower engine on, I don't know, kind of a dune buggy thing. So, I'm kind of and I'm not blingy anymore, but I do like nice things that are comfortable and pretty and in good taste. And that's part of me. And the more we're authentically ourselves, I imagine you'll totally agree with this, the more we contribute to the world and the more that comes our way that we love. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think that it makes it easier for us to connect with the people we want to connect with, which
Yeah,
are potentially your ideal clients. You're going to attract the right people when you're actually yourself. You're making decisions based on the fact that you want to serve people and that is your purpose.
right, right. I'm working on a podcast episode about motivation, a solo, and it popped in my mind the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which if you ever took a psychology class, you talk about that. And one of the the fifth one at the top of the pyramid is self-actualization. And to me, that is that process of finding and being and putting forth ourself in a way that is not like, oh, I've always had a bad temper and that's just me. But, our authentic, healthy, whole, generous self. And then when we find those desires and goals, and especially centered around supporting other people, because it all comes back. It's not, I don't know about you, but those early days of having friendships where I ended up disappointed, it's because I
Mhm.
was emptying myself, but I wasn't getting back. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, because Jenna,
It, what I was gonna say to your point about the hierarchy of needs, I know like I can't quote studies, but I listen to a lot of stuff, and
mhm,
that's something that they're talking about how happiness happens when people have purpose and they feel like they've actually accomplished something.
right.
That's when you're happiest at your job, like, and it can just be when you feel like you're moving the needle forward, that makes you feel really, really good. So if we're just out here chasing money and chasing the systems that's going to bring us the most money, that's not going to be truly fulfilling. But if we find the niche or, the clients we want, like we can find our purpose, so we can find that one thing that's truly going to make us feel like we're making a difference and we're moving forward. That's where your actual happiness is going to be, and
Hmm.
the money
Hmm.
will follow.
Right. And it doesn't always stay the same. I used to
Exactly.
love weddings. I started with weddings. I used to cry at cartoon weddings. There's an old cartoon where a little bumblebee marries uh,
Mhm.
another bug, and it's and I have cried at that cartoon wedding. But
Oh,
after doing it for a while, I did enough and I saw enough. And then kids have always been my heart. And then that evolved into more families. And then that evolved into coaching and teaching, and now I'm in an interesting spot of the like the what's next. And right now, part of the what next is the need for physical health. And so started putting that as like, okay, maybe this is my career right now is just taking care of myself. But yeah, life is like a kaleidoscope. It just keeps unfolding, and what serves what our passion is today will probably blossom into something else beautiful in the future. So yeah. So we're just about out of time. So I have a question. How do we get in touch with you if people want to be a part of your community, if they have questions for you? What's the best, most direct way to do that?
So I do have a photographers group. If you go onto Facebook, it's going to be Finding Magic Photography Education. I've kind of taken a little bit of a break from the education portion of my career. Like what you were saying, we evolve and we change. I um I was heavy into the mentorship and all of that because I love it. I love pouring into other people. I love planting little seeds and watching them grow. And there's nothing more exciting than to see someone go from like a beginner to someone super successful. That's the funnest part of being an educator.
Hmm.
People, changing, evolving, and reaching their goals. That's such a beautiful thing. But I felt like I was separating myself into two people, and I couldn't give 100% to both businesses. So I've spent like the last year just completely focused on my studio. And I think, it's going to be about another year before I go back to the education, but it's something that is still in my heart. And I'm an open book. So if you ever have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me, post in the group. I would love to just get the community going again because that was super fun.
Okay. So is it finding, what's the actual
Magic.
just
It's
finding
finding
magic?
magic.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. So I'm going to let you tell me in a way I can type it so it'll be in the show notes.
It's Finding Magic Photography Education.
Okay. With
And it'll be
Marabella portraits? Okay. Uh, so Finding Magic Photography Education with Marabella portraits. Um, and if they wanted to look at your photography, where do they go to see all that wonderfulness? What's your website?
I would recommend if you want to see a little bit of everything, go to marabellaportraits.com. That has all of my work, my children, families, all of it. And then for my boudoir, you want to go to goddessbymarabella.com.
Goddess by Marabella, Maribella, right? Maribella.
Yes.
Great, great, great. Okay, so my last question is just an opportunity to share something. I mean, yes, I'd love to spend some time finding out about your lighting and posing and all of that, but I think right now this is just awesome conversation about the deeper parts of being a personal photographer in this way. So, is there something that you would like to leave us with, either that you haven't talked about or just a parting thought?
Okay. There's we all have customer service issues sometimes, right? And I think that's something we obviously haven't spoken about. And everybody has different personalities because we're all human. I think when you are approaching any kind of a customer service issue, whether that be because of, scheduling or communication, take a deep breath, listen, and remember there's no winners and losers, right? So you're
Mhm.
not going to lose. Find a way to say yes
Mhm.
without you losing anything,
Got it.
if you can. and just listening, because a lot of times we preemptively get defensive and think this is what they're wanting. And so taking our emotions out of it and just listening is super important. And empathy goes such a long way in those situations. There's been a lot of times that I've diffused some bombs just by saying, I understand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I understand what you're feeling right now.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been times when I've been in some, let's say, struggle with in a business thing or even friends or whatever, where all I wanted them to say is, I hear you. You were frustrated when this happened. And,
Mhm.
you know, so yeah, doing that back. So thank you for that. So I have to tell you, normally I just leave it at that and we say goodbye. But I was at lunchtime, often I watch the People's Court or the Judge Judy. I wish the People's Court with I can't remember her name was still on because she has a big heart. But that it was a photographer was the plaintiff. She had photographed a senior portrait and delivered 10 digital files. The people ordered an album. They got the files because they ordered the album. And sorry, I'm trying to summarize this. And then they decided when they printed,
I didn't
I
want the
think,
album.
what? No, they decided they hated them and they were beautiful photos because the girl's hair looked too red when they printed it, I think on paper from their home printer.
Yeah.
And Judge Judy totally did not side with the photographer who had done all the work. And the photographs were incredible. And the ones that she was going to put in the book, if they hadn't canceled and they canceled the check after she'd
Wow.
already done retouching and things. And the judge sided mostly with the fact that the album wasn't delivered. So she didn't get all her money. And I actually contacted the photographer because it was clear to me that she was a colleague by the work and how professional she was. And she said when she went to the show, she had all these things about how much time you spend and not just the editing, the phone calls and this and that. And that if you don't like the color, if your hair looks too red, we can fix all of that. And she said they just cut that all out. She didn't get a chance to really explain. And the judge gave her an extra $300 for all the work, is all she got. So, yeah. So why did I bring that up? Oh, just because it was it was an interesting thing. Oh, because you were talking about people that are difficult. Now, my theory is that this family wanted something for free because they'd already gotten
Oh,
a free shoot.
I did.
And once they got the digital files, which she sent before the check cleared, not a good idea. Um, they just made their own prints and they were done with it. And so they got everything mostly free. So she might have, though, if she'd have taken your advice, which she might have anyway, about giving empathy, it might have worked out better, or it might have worked out the same, but at least she would have felt great about how she approached it. So, anyway, I don't know if anybody's like, why did you tell us that story? Or you might think it's fun. A lot of times a judge goes with like somebody does a wedding and they say, oh, you didn't get a picture of my uncle so and so. She sides
That's
with,
crazy.
you've got hundreds of pictures and a person, unless you specifically write it down, you can't expect a photographer at a wedding to get everybody. But in this time, I don't know. I don't know what her deal was. Anyway, I don't know. I just like talking to you, Maria. So, all right.
I
Well,
like
thank
talking to
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on this
Thank
show.
you for having me.
And I just so look forward to I'm gonna jump in some of your groups so we can stay connected in that way. I
Yes,
feel like
I would
we
love
We're kindred spirits.
Well, maybe you'll fly down here and we'll photograph you.
Could
You could be
be,
one of our guides.
could
Yeah.
be. All righty. Well, thanks a bunch. Talk
Thank
to you
you. You have
soon.
a good night. It was
You
so
too.
nice talking to you.
You too.
I'm excited to hear the episode.
Me too. Okay, what a wonderful conversation. And I just love meeting all these fabulous people that I am privileged to have conversations with. And she's just right up there. I love her heart. And I imagine you do as well. So I didn't take like specific notes other than the way that, well, I didn't take specific notes because we weren't getting step by step bullet points. Um, and I think that's okay. So I just wanted to say goodbye and tune in next time and get in touch if you want to talk to me about anything. All right. Ciao, babes.